In the quiet town of Pine Creek, the high school sat at the center of everything. It wasn't a fancy building, just red bricks, a tall flagpole, and the usual sounds of slamming lockers and morning announcements echoing through the halls. Most kids knew each other from kindergarten, and secrets didn't stay hidden for long. Jason Miller was one of those kids who never caused trouble. He wasn't the loudest in class, or the fastest on the field, but he was the kind of student teachers respected. He always turned in his homework, never talked back, and treated everyone kindly. Jason's parents were both in the military. His dad served overseas, and his mom worked at the local base. They taught Jason about respect, discipline, and standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. Jason didn't brag about his family. Still, you could tell he was proud. He wore a dog tag his father gave him before deployment, and kept a picture of both parents in uniform in his locker. The school principal, Mr. Thompson, was a different story. He ran the school with a tight grip and a short fuse. He didn't smile much, and most students avoided him when they could. Something about him and Jason never seemed to mix, but no one knew just how bad things were about to get. It all started on a cloudy Thursday morning. Jason had missed the bus because his mom, who had just returned from duty, had come home late the night before. He stayed up talking with her, something he hadn't been able to do in months. He overslept and rushed to school, arriving just 5 minutes after the bell. As he walked quickly down the hall, he heard the sharp voice of Mr. Thompson behind him. "Late again, Miller," the principal barked. "Maybe if your parents weren't off playing soldier, you'd know how to use an alarm clock." Jason stopped in his tracks. He turned, confused. Did he really just say that? "Yes, sir. I'm sorry." Jason began, but Mr. Thompson cut him off. "Spare me the excuses. Your parents leave you here like some stray dog while they go off pretending to save the world. Maybe they should learn how to raise a kid instead of hiding behind a uniform." The hallway fell silent. A couple of students nearby looked up from their lockers, eyes wide. Jason stood still, his hands clenched into fists, but he didn't say a word. He could feel the heat in his face and the sting of tears behind his eyes. Mr. Thompson didn't stop there. "Maybe you think you deserve special treatment because of your parents. You don't. This is a school, not a military base." Jason swallowed hard. He wanted to speak up, to defend his parents, but instead, he turned and walked to class. He could hear a couple of kids whispering as he passed, their faces filled with shock and disbelief. All day Jason stayed quiet. The words stuck with him like thorns, digging deeper the more he thought about them. His parents had missed birthdays, holidays, and whole parts of his childhood to serve the country. And now the man in charge of his school, someone who was supposed to be a leader, had mocked them for it. By the time the final bell rang, Jason wasn't just sad, he was angry. Not the kind of anger that makes someone yell or slam a door, but the kind that sits heavy in your chest and doesn't let go. Something had to change. He just didn't know yet how big that change would be. After school, Jason met up with his best friend Emma, near the old oak tree by the parking lot. Emma was sharp and fearless, always ready to stand up for what was right. When Jason told her what happened, his voice was quiet but steady. "You can't let him get away with that," Emma said, her eyes burning with anger. "We need to do something." Jason wasn't sure at first. Speaking out felt scary. What if no one believed him? Or worse, what if Mr. Thompson made things even harder for him? But Emma was insistent. They decided to write down everything Jason remembered, every word the principal said. Emma even took out her phone and recorded a few classmates who had overheard the incident. Slowly the story started to spread. Other students came forward with their own stories about the principal, how he shouted at them for small mistakes, or made unfair rules that only seemed to punish certain kids. It was like a dam breaking. What had been a secret, whispered behind closed doors, was now a loud and clear call for change. One afternoon, Emma called Jason's mom to tell her what was happening. Jason's parents were shocked and furious, but also proud of their son for standing up. They promised to be there every step of the way. At home, Jason felt a mix of hope and nervousness. The support made him stronger, but he knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. The principal wasn't just any man. He held the power to make life difficult for him and his family. But Jason had learned something important from his parents. Courage isn't about never being afraid, it's about doing what's right, even when fear is there. And now Jason was ready to face whatever came next. Word spread fast, and soon the school board announced they would hold a meeting to discuss the situation with Mr. Thompson. The news sent a ripple of excitement and nervousness through the town. Parents, teachers, and students talked about what might happen. Some were worried, others hopeful. Jason and his parents prepared carefully. They gathered notes, recorded statements, and practiced what they wanted to say. Jason felt the weight of the moment, but also a sense of purpose. This was his chance, not just to speak for himself, but for every student who had been hurt or ignored. On the day before the meeting, the school hallway was unusually quiet. Whispers filled the air, and many students wore determined faces. Emma stood by Jason's side, reminding him that he wasn't alone. Mr. Thompson seemed tense too. He avoided eye contact, and rarely spoke to anyone. Some teachers whispered that he was worried about losing his job. The school board members, serious and formal, arrived early to prepare the room. The walls of the meeting room felt colder than usual, the long table stretching like a barrier between those who held power and those who wanted change. Everyone knew this meeting would decide more than just Mr. Thompson's fate. It would send a message about respect, fairness, and how a community stands up for its own. Jason took a deep breath. Whatever happened next, this was the moment he had been waiting for. The moment where things would finally come to light. The school board meeting room was packed. Parents, students, and teachers filled every seat, some standing along the walls. The air was thick with tension, whispers bouncing off the cold walls, as everyone waited for the meeting to start. Jason sat quietly beside his parents. Emma was nearby, her eyes steady and supportive. Across the room, Mr. Thompson sat with his arms crossed, his face tight and unreadable. He glanced around nervously, knowing this was no ordinary meeting. The chairperson called the meeting to order, and invited Mr. Thompson to speak first. "Thank you," Mr. Thompson began, his voice steady but defensive. "Regarding the incident with Jason Miller, I regret if my words were misunderstood. It was never my intention to hurt anyone. The boy was late, and had to be disciplined." He paused, then added, "We expect all students to follow the rules, no exceptions." When it was Jason's turn, his parents spoke first. His mother's voice was calm, but strong. "Our son is proud of his parents' service," she said. "The military has taught us values, respect, honor, courage." To hear those values mocked in his own school was painful beyond words. Jason's father nodded. "It's not just about discipline, it's about respect. No child should be made to feel less because of their family." Jason took a deep breath, and stood. His voice was quiet but clear. "I didn't just feel embarrassed that day. I felt like I wasn't seen, like I didn't matter. But I know my parents have taught me to stand strong, and I want to make sure no one else feels that way." Then came the surprise. A teacher, Mrs. Ellis, who rarely spoke in public, stepped forward. "I've witnessed Mr. Thompson's harsh treatment before," she said. "Several students have come to me, scared to speak up. This isn't the first time disrespect has come from the principal." A murmur spread through the room. Another student raised their hand, sharing stories of unfair punishments and hurtful words. Mr. Thompson's face darkened. He leaned forward, voice rising. "I've done what's necessary to keep order. If some feel offended, that is not my problem." The room fell silent. The chairperson called for order, reminding everyone this was a place for respectful discussion. The debate grew heated. Some board members stressed the importance of discipline. Others argued that leadership meant more than rules, it meant kindness and respect. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, the chairperson stood. "After hearing all testimony, it is clear that Mr. Thompson's actions have deeply affected students and families. This board will review the matter thoroughly. In the meantime, Mr. Thompson will be placed on administrative leave." A collective sigh filled the room. Jason's heart pounded, not from fear, but from relief and hope. As people began to leave, whispers turned into quiet conversations about change and justice. Jason looked at his parents and Emma. This was just the beginning, but the first step had been taken. The principal's reign of fear was over for now, and Jason knew that standing up had made a difference. In the days following the school board meeting, the atmosphere at Pine Creek High began to change. The news about Mr. Thompson's suspension spread quickly, and many students felt a new sense of hope. Hallways that once echoed with nervous whispers now buzzed with quiet excitement. Jason noticed how some teachers smiled more often, and how students seemed more willing to speak up without fear. Emma stayed by his side, proud of how far they'd come. Even some of the toughest kids admitted they respected Jason for having the courage to stand against the principal. Jason's parents were deeply thankful for the support from the community. They knew their son had faced a challenge bigger than himself, and they were proud of the way he handled it with strength and dignity. They spent evenings talking about what had happened, reminding Jason that bravery often means standing alone until others find the courage to join. One afternoon, Jason received an unexpected letter from the school superintendent. It was an apology for the principal's behavior, and a promise that the school would work to create a safer, kinder environment for all students. The letter ended with words Jason would never forget: "Your courage has made Pine Creek High a better place." But the story didn't end there. The school board decided to hire a new principal, someone known for listening to students and respecting their voices. The change wasn't easy at first, but slowly the school began to heal. Jason felt different too. He wasn't just a quiet kid anymore. He had learned that speaking out could make a real difference, no matter how hard it seemed. The military values his parents taught him, honor, respect, courage, were no longer just words. They were a part of who he was. As the school year went on, Jason found himself volunteering for student council, determined to help others who felt unheard. He knew challenges would come again, but now he was ready, because sometimes standing up for what's right starts with one brave voice, and that voice can change everything.